Alright, it's the HAWK. I hope you all enjoyed the big video I just released. I don't know if I've ever worked as hard on a single video during my entire time on YouTube. It's not something I'd normally do. I mean, I don't mean working hard, I mean making such a long video. I haven't even been able to go to the gym for an entire week. Scott Steiner would be turning in his grave, and he ain't even dead. Let the Hawk know what you thought of that long video. Today, as I get my life back on track, we do a pay-per-view review. My aim was to try to pick out something interesting, and I ended up with one of the best rated TNA shows of all time, so we need to find out if that's correct or not. There were also some rarer characters wrestling on this show too, and a couple of interesting gimmick matches that we should check out. Ring of the Hawk is taking a brief hiatus before a new series starts. There's still loads of great short runs to review, but I don't like to burn through them too quickly. So in the meantime, you can request pay-per-view reviews or any other video of your choosing if you make yourself go on to my Patreon. Anyway, this is TNA Turning Point 2005, which was their 14th pay-per-view, and it was hyped up as something would be happening on this show that would change the face of TNA. Unfortunately, this show is taking place in the Impact Zone in Florida in front of a crowd of just 900 people, and it got a buy rate of 30,000. These were still the early days for TNA, and they hadn't quite blown up yet with the help of Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. No hanging around here though, as we're straight into the first match, which will be a barbed wire match. If you see some weird filters here, you've got to roll with it. YouTube hates me doing this sort of match coverage. It's Abyss with Father James Mitchell, and he'll be taking on the homicidal, genocidal Sabu. So how did we get here then? Well, these two have been battering each other in all sorts of stipulation matches on the previous 3 pay-per-views. Abyss is this unstoppable monster, but recently he's shown a fear of barbed wire. Sabu swings a barbed wire bat at him straight away, which gets stuck in the ropes. He switches to a chair straight to the face, and he tries his chair dive, but he's caught. It looks like Abyss is going to powerbomb him out of the ring, but he can't do it, and Sabu makes a pin attempt. As Abyss kicks out the pin, he sends Sabu into the wire, which gets a massive pop from the crowd, and a Holy Hawk chant only 4 minutes into the show. Possibly the earliest that has ever happened on pay-per-view.
Pin! 2! No! Oh my God!
The crowd are doing this weird chant for Abyss, which they would like to do in the early days. It almost sounds like they're laughing at him.
Anything he can to take the breath out of him, but you know Abyss doesn't want to go for a pin at this point. He wants to inflict damage.
Not sure if they're on his side or not. A few teasers of faces going into the barbed wire later, and Sabu is the man to hit the wire again, when Abyss presses him into it. Sabu seems to be stuck, but he's actually playing possum as he releases a brutal attack with a weapon. Nobody seems to know what this nondescript weapon is. The attack doesn't last too long as another chair dive goes wrong for Sabu and he goes nutsack first into the barbed wire. It's now Abyss's turn to make a mistake as he goes running and gets a drop toe hold into the wire. Sabu gets a 2 on a chair shot, but Abyss won't stay down. The monster throttles Sabu around the throat and chokeslams him onto a chair for a 2 count. A barbed wire chair is in the ring now, which gets another great crowd reaction. Abyss wants to squash the chair into Sabu, but he can't bounce off the barbed wire ropes. His hesitation costs him and he gets a chair into the nutsack. Sabu's in his element now and he's swinging the barbed wire chair around like a maniac. Finally, his chair dive does pay off as Sabu dives out the ring onto the monster. Now we've got a barbed wire board. Sabu's taking too long and Abyss recovers and he front suplexes him from the floor onto the top rope wire. Sabu seems to really have hurt his hand as he frees himself. Abyss tries a powerbomb into the board, which Sabu fights off. He also fights off a chokeslam into the board, but seconds later Abyss picks him up and drops him on the board. Another board is set up in the corner. We almost get a ref bump from an Irish whip trade-off, and then Abyss throws himself into the board in the corner. He desperately tries to free himself, but he can't as Sabu kicks the board over, sandwiching Abyss between the 2 boards. Sabu ass drops the boards to add insult to injury, and that's the 3. No remorse from Sabu after the bell as he keeps stamping on the table. Can you imagine the pain that Abyss is feeling as they try and free him from the wire? The crowd sound their appreciation as they chant thank you at the monster. A really fun opener which I do believe was missing a 5th gear, perhaps one more spot was needed. But everything's okay because James Mitchell tells Abyss that he has now conquered his fear of barbed wire. The opener gets a low B. Out in the car park, up steps, a wild slapnuts appears.
Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
He's also got America's Most Wanted with him. Elsewhere, Rhino pulls up in a pickup truck. Yeah, that's fine, Rhino, just park it wherever you want. Shane Douglas interviews the 4 Live crew about their match tonight. Moldog promises that it's their year. He's very happy about Billy Gunn and Konad finally settling their differences and being in the same group. Konad ends the promo saying, "Let's go shake and bake these fools." Elsewhere backstage, Abyss is screaming and being treated by medics as Mitchell reminds him that he's conquered his fears. Don West is very concerned that Abyss may have suffered from an infection. It's now a very long wait for the next match because I guess they're cleaning up the ring and switching the barbed wire ropes to actual ropes. We eventually move on to an X Division tag match. Alex Shelley, who probably has the weirdest hat I've ever seen, teams up with Roderick Strong. This is of course the continuation of their ROH team. Don West tells us who they're about to be facing, but then his commentary is cut off. I think he forgot who was even in the match.
And that is, of course,
The following contest is scheduled.
It turns out it's Austin Aries teaming up with Matt Bentley with Tracy Brooks. This is probably the most popular Matt Bentley ever was, as the audience will have fun doing the Bentley bounce at ringside. It just looks like a fun place to be. They of course have to take the time to point out that Matt Bentley is Shawn Michaels' cousin, which they did every time he had a match and heaped unnecessary pressure on the man. We start out with Austin Aries and Shelley. These two guys are quicker than a punch to the gut. Aries eventually springs out the corner to hit a back elbow. He looks like he's going for a Dudley dog, but instead it's a headlock takeover and a headstand dropkick. Shelley bites him to slow him down and he tags Strong. But Aries is still fired up and he's throwing him around the ring. The pendulum elbow gets Aries a 2 count and now Bentley's in. Bentley and Aries with a double suplex into a double fist drop. Strong does a jawbreaker and tags out. That turns the match in the heel's favour, who really haven't managed anything in this match yet. They can't keep Matt Bentley down, who does a head scissors and a kick to the back of the head for a 2. Bentley brings Aries in with a corkscrew splash for a 2. Austin Aries wants a springboard now, but Shelley clotheslines him into the ring. We get a nice backbreaker from Roderick Strong. Shelley follows that with a lion salt. Shelley and Strong keep working together and connect with a double team. I've never seen this before, but it's sort of a backbreaker-neckbreaker combination. Aries is sent onto the top rope where he starts a comeback, but the numbers advantage kills him. He's hit with a dropkick into a backbreaker double team. Somehow, that is just a 2. Aries suddenly fires up and the tag is made. Bentley's a hawk on fire and he drops Shelley with a flatliner. He flies off the top rope with a Shawn Michaels elbow, but unlike the Heartbreak Kid, it's just a 2. More double teaming. Strong hits a nice backbreaker with Shelley crashing straight down the senton backsplash. Aries is back though. Strong almost falls into Shelley's camera gimmick, but he's terrified of smashing it. Probably couldn't afford to replace it on TNA wages. And that's enough for Bentley to hit a super kick for the 3. A really fun match, which wasn't actually a spot fest. There were some really nice backbreakers and combination moves. I think it made the heels look a bit weak when they couldn't get the win after all their insane moves and then they get beaten with a simple super kick. This really was the Austin Aries show though, giving this another low B for the unique moves that we witnessed. But no time to dwell on that because Monty Brown is in the back. He's got a doll that he's saying is Christian Cage. He's making fun of how Christian dresses. Douglas asks him if he's concerned about Christian Cage taking his spot in TNA. Brown says that won't happen. Sadly, we all know this is wrong, and in actuality, Christian Cage joining TNA was unintentionally the downfall of Monty Brown, as he did indeed take his spot. It's a nice intense promo from Brown. He says he's going to kill Christian Cage tonight with the pounce. Slapnut sneaks up on him and says he looks like something out of Nickelodeon. Jarrett tells him that Christian is the flavour of the month and TNA is going to screw Monty. Monty looks very confused, so does Shane Douglas. Now it will be a pointless match with Raven. The story here is that Larry Zbyszko wants Raven to quit TNA and he's trying to get people to beat Raven up so he agrees to sign a contract to leave TNA. Raven calls Zbyszko a game show host asking questions that nobody's ever asked before. Raven pretends he's going to sign the contract but instead he laughs in his face. The hand-picked opponent for Raven tonight is strangely Chris Kanyon. He's billed simply as Chris K. He looks more like his Mortis gimmick from WCW. This was Kanyon's only TNA appearance. The match starts straight away with Kanyon dominating Raven. Kanyon starts working the arm and pulls Raven into the ring pole, followed by a leg drop across his arm, or possibly the back of his head, I couldn't tell. Kanyon tries to fly off the steps but misses and the Raven man smashes him into the crowd bar with a Russian leg sweep. Kanyon should be counted out, but the ref ain't counting. He does manage to fight his way back into the ring and he hits the rocker dropper for a 2 count. Kanyon keeps going but he misses his moonsault. Randomly, Raven puts on an ankle lock. It's noticeable how busted up Raven's face is at this point. Kanyon gets back up and throws Raven down by his hair. That fires Raven up who hits his punch combo. Really nice knee lift from Raven now which knocks Kanyon out of the ring. That was a thing of beauty. Kanyon tries to leave but Raven gives chase and hip tosses him back down the ramp. Raven gets a chair set up in the ring because this is TNA and there's only rules when they want there to be rules. Kanyon just sort of ignores the drop toe hold and blocks Raven's punch with the chair. It looks a bit awkward. Seconds later, Raven powerbombs Kanyon onto the chair. The raise in effect ends it. Larry screams at Raven to leave TNA again, but he refuses. They fight. This is billed to a horrible hair versus hair match they end up having. But this match here was just a short match, which was mostly okay, but I wouldn't say Kanyon was particularly innovative here. It was a bit of a letdown. I did like that knee lift though. This one's a D. In the back now, it's Scott D'Amore's Team Canada. They're discussing where Bobby Roode is. Eric Young's being wacky and he's concerned because they're going to be outnumbered in their match. Young's just starting his paranoid gimmick. Petey Williams and Scott D'Amore both slap him one. Slapnuts walks in with Bobby Roode. He calls Monty Brown a moron. Jarrett is of course concerned about what the big announcement that's going to be that changes TNA tonight. Jarrett is self-aware and says everybody is excited to get the belt off of him. Bobby Roode says Team Canada have Jarrett's back. Douglas looks really confused. 8-man tag then. It's Team Canada, A1, Petey Williams, Eric Young and Bobby Roode take on the 4 Live crew, R-Truth, Mold Dog, Billy Gunn and Conad. Truth does a rap, which is way out of sync with the beat. He just tries to say way too many syllables. They all do their gimmick on the mic except Billy Gunn, because he doesn't have one. Billy Gunn starts out of Eric Young. He's being wacky and Scott D'Amore tails him off again. Roode starts instead. Billy Gunn's pigtails look really weird. Billy keeps overpowering Roode. He gets a 2-offer suplex. Then he press slams Petey Williams. Conad throws his shoe at Petey Williams. Truth does a leg drop to Petey's nutsack. Petey's now dead, so he tags Eric. The crowd are chanting for Eric Young despite him being a heel. Truth gives him a splits into the kicks. Now it's Truth and Mold Dog doing some dancing together into a double smack. The shake, rattle and roll doesn't work for the Mold Dog, but the big boot does. Team Canada haven't managed a single thing in this match. They eventually team up on the Dog to take him out, and A1 is very pleased with himself. The crowd sarcastically chant for A1 as he hits a suplex. It's really slow with Team Canada ganging up on the Moldy one. The pace finally quickens when Billy Gunn has the tag. He hits a big jackhammer on Eric Young, but the pin is stopped. The match breaks down and it's Billy Gunn hitting the Faymaster on Bobby Roode. Conad has a chair, and then he turns on the crew and smashes Billy Gunn with the chair. Roode makes the pin for the 3. This was the start of Conad going over to do his LAX team. He smacks Road Dogg out too. He doesn't smack Truth though, who looks on in horror. After months of arguing between Billy and Conad, it seemed like things had sorted themselves out, but they hadn't. Probably the weakest match of the night so far, and it makes the months of storyline build to Conad finally accepting Billy really annoying that he just turned over nothing. It's a D for this 8-man tag. In the back is the Diamonds in the Rough, or as I like to call them, the Turds in the Toilet. Skipper tells Shane Douglas that TNA is his house. David Young is reading a newspaper and complaining. His head looks like a penis head. The Diamond Man threatens AJ Pazinski, a baseball player, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. That leads to a news report about how AJ made appearances in TNA. Simon Diamond took offence to the fact that TNA was focusing on baseball players, and not focusing on his team. Yeah, like his team of the Turds in the Toilet would have gotten TV time if that wasn't happening. Del Torborg of WCW fame is also here, and they all had a brawl which led to this match. Bobby the Brain Heenan is also incredibly involved as he's been managing AJ Pazinski and how to become a wrestling manager. What a crazy pile of news that is. Heenan is carted out and he will be on commentary for this match. The fans sound like they're chanting overrated, but I might be wrong. This is the base brawl match. Simon Diamond, Elix Skipper and the Master of the Cab Driver Slam David Young, the Turds in the Toilet versus Sonjay Dutt, Chris Sabin and Del Torborg. Mike Tenay reminds us that he was the Kiss Demon. Yeah, thanks for that one today. But now he's a coach for the White Sox. Skipper and Sabin start, so you know that's going to be good. Skipper does that face buster that Jericho did as a finisher in 2001, but now it's a nothing move. We also get Skipper dropping Sabin on his head, not sure if it was a botch. Skipper tries a suicide dive, but Sabin kicks him through the ropes and out the ring. David Young comes in, but he's also kicked. Sonjay Dutt joins the match with a crossbody and a springboard leg drop. When Del Torborg gets the tag, he smacks everyone down and then presses his own partner Sonjay above his head and throws him on top of the Diamonds. The match turns through cheating and a big face buster from David Young. Ugly moment now, and I'm not talking about David Young. Sonjay is doing all these revolutions on Skipper's head, but they get stuck, and then Skipper just drops him on his head. He's quickly dropped again with the Cab Driver Slam, but the pin's broken up. Sonjay does a springboard head scissors and the Demon gets back in. He gives the Diamond Man a choke slam, which causes the match to break down. Skipper gets taken out for sliced bread, and the Diamonds continue getting destroyed. The Diamond Man hits Del and his Demon. He wants to use a shin protector as a weapon, which AJ Pazinski tries to stop. He fails. But then AJ stops the referee from counting and he rushes the ring and smashes Simon in the head with a plate. Sabin hits his cradle shock finisher and Sonjay does the Hindu press. A big pile of bodies lie on top of Diamond and that's the 3. Sabin and Sonjay gift the Chicago White Sox a couple of second-hand rings from a pawn shop. That was a really fun match, even if there was a few clunky moments. Heenan on commentary sounded really old and he was muttering a lot, but it's cool to hear from him again. This was a celebrity appearance done right. I give it a C.
Spread TV, pay-per-views, NWA and TNA, there's nothing better Americans right now. This is exciting.
Shane Douglas is catching up with Christian Cage in the back. He's calling his fans the Christian Coalition and also his peeps. The crowd react and chant his name in the background like a rock promo from the Attitude Era. He tells Monty Brown to take his Christian doll and stick it straight up his candy ass. No, he doesn't really, but I thought he was going to say that. He says that he'll walk onto the Serengeti and come back with the carcass of an alpha male, because that's how he rolls. They're going to be fighting for the #1 contendership, so how do we get here? Well, Christian had debuted in TNA just a month earlier. He immediately targeted the world title, but Monty Brown was annoyed because that was his spot, which he'd won on the previous pay-per-view. So they agreed to fight for the slot. I hate it when guys willingly risk their title shot, it makes them look dumb. So here we are, Monty Brown versus Christian Cage, who gets a massive fan reaction for his pay-per-view debut. Mike Tenay describes Christian in TNA as the biggest jump in company history. Monty starts out showing his power advantage. They push and slap each other. Wes says that he'd rather be watching them having a debate than wrestling. Monty Brown looks for an early pounce, but Christian is able to climb out of the ring. Christian climbs back in and steals Monty Brown's taunt, which the crowd love. Cage tries a dive, which doesn't work, and Monty picks him up overhead, which Christian reverses and throws Monty out of the ring, and Christian dives on top of him. That almost sets Christian up for the Umbrella, which Monty counters into an electric chair throw onto the ropes. Disappointing, but the next move isn't, when Monty press slams Christian out of the ring. This match spends so long out of the ring, it feels like a slapnuts match, and it continues that way. Monty keeps getting into arguments with the fans. Back in the ring, Monty connects with a big flapjack for a 2. Monty Brown slowly works Christian over until the pace quickens and Brown hits an overhead suplex for a 2. The crowd are chanting alpha female. Cage turns it around and both guys look exhausted. Cage connects with a discus forearm. There's a lot more punches thrown in this match than I expected. They're both hardly doing anything. Eventually Cage connects with a tornado DDT, but it's not over. Cage follows that with a frog splash for another 2. Monty Brown kicks out and Christian splats on top of the referee. Not sure why that was done because it leads to nothing as Monty Brown hits the alpha bomb. It's possibly to say that Monty was screwed, but the ref still counted almost straight away. I don't know if he botched. Monty smashes into an exposed turnbuckle and Christian connects with the Umbrella for the 3. And just like that, Monty has lost his spot in TNA. This match never really got going. It was so slow and they spent more time lying on the floor outside the ring and punching each other. I had high hopes for this one, but it's just a low C. We hear from the Dudley Boyz now, who are another big recent acquisition for TNA. Bubba brags that he is the All Japan Tag Team Champion. Then he calls the NWA TNA Tag titles the most prestigious tag titles. Way to dump on your own belt. Once again, Shane Douglas looks confused. This will be a tables match. The Dudleys taking on AMW. How did we get here? America's Most Wanted are the Tag Team Champions and they've left the Dudleys laying a number of times. They even held a mock funeral for Team 3D, which was an excellent segment. Very similar to the later funeral for the Aces and Eights they do in 2014. The Dudleys run at Storm and Harris on the ramp as fireworks are still going off right next to them. This is not going to be a pretty match. It's just a bunch of brawling for ages until an impressive delayed suplex from Chris Harris on Devon. His hand almost goes down Harris's knickers. Brother Ray chops Harris so hard he goes flying backwards. And now it's time for the what's up on James Storm. Devon gets the tables. Chris Harris has a goatee. It's not really a good look for him. Bubba saves his brother from almost going for a table. Moments later, he saves him again from Harris diving through the table. It's now James Storm's turn to make a save as he flips a table out the way of a superplex. Really dodgy moment now as Bubba throws James Storm out the ring, who only just clears one of the tables that's on the outside of the ring. Storm attempts a Hurricanrana for a table, which is also moved out the way. But Storm is able to connect with a last call. Then, probably the dumbest spot I think I've ever seen. As America's Most Wanted attempt a 3D, Chris Harris is nowhere near Devon. It looks so dumb. Moments later, Team 3D put James Storm through the table with the death sentence, which is America's Most Wanted's finish. But this is an elimination match and Harris is still in this one. Oh, never mind, they hit him with a 3D on the ramp through the table seconds later. Probably the worst table smash I've seen the Dudleys have. What's wrong with them? They did nothing. Doesn't stop the crowd loving them though. The match is nothing more than a D. But we move on from that to something which is just going to be great. Samoa Joe has been on a complete tear since debuting 6 months earlier for the company. He's been killing all of the X Division stars. He took out Daniels and carried his shirt around like a trophy, which upset his best friend AJ Styles. He stood up for his little friend, but before he can do that, we cut back to the ring where James Storm looks badly injured in the middle of the ring. It turns out he's had a stinger. It's turned out he had a stinger when he went through the table, and I ain't talking Steve Borden. So for the X Division title, we got the undefeated Samoa Joe. Wow, what's up with his hairdo here? And he's taking on the champion AJ Styles. This one has to be good. It just has to be. Styles gets on him straight away. Can't be many matches where AJ feels like a serious underdog. Styles suplexes him over to a great fan pop. Joe tries to get going but runs into a big dropkick. The crowd are firmly behind Styles. Joe now fires back with some tense kicks. Man, it's crazy seeing these two men so motivated and intense. Massive kick by Joe to AJ on the ring apron. He ain't done and he swings Styles around into the rail. You know, when most wrestlers do that, it looks rubbish. That looked mad. Joe connects with a running single leg dropkick on the outside. It seems like Joe has his fans here too. Joe gets him back in the ring and hits a big combo that leaves AJ clinging to his windpipe. Samoa Joe with a flapjack now straight into a back senton. There's just no rest for Styles and Joe looks unstoppable. It seems like it's over, but AJ blocks the face wash. He tries a discus, but Joe stops him and AJ's quickly on his ass again. The crowd have really turned now. They just didn't care about Joe before, but they do now. AJ desperately tries a springboard into the ring, but he's caught and powerbombed. Joe doesn't want the pin though, and he turns it into a Boston. After a bit, AJ kicks him off. AJ Styles manages to get lucky now and sends Joe from the ring, and here it is, the Fosbury flop. A pretty rare move for Styles. AJ comes back into the ring with a springboard smack to the back of the head. That's a 2 for Styles. Back on their feet, AJ reverses a German attempt and does his inverted DDT for another 2. Styles tries to follow with a running attack, but he's hit with a snap slam for a 2. Joe goes back to throwing kicks, which seems to fire Styles up. Big spin kick from Styles, which rocks Joe. Wow, something I never thought I'd see. AJ Styles powerbombs Samoa Joe, but Joe turns it around with a clothesline. He's looking tired, and AJ kicks out 1. I love the story this match is telling. AJ is outlasting Joe, and he's letting him know it. AJ kicks out of a sit-out powerbomb attempt and screams. Joe's getting frustrated and he slaps AJ in his back, which is a bad decision because AJ has a Pele kick for him. AJ's on the top rope with Joe now. He hits a powerbomb, which was the least crisp thing in this entire match, but he picks Joe straight back up with the Styles clash. That's just a 2. A roll up from Styles now, which is a bad choice because Joe gets him in the choke. After about 30 seconds, AJ passes out. Samoa Joe wins and is the new champion. Wow, it was so cool to see Joe so motivated and unstoppable. And he decks AJ with the title belt to show he's not gone soft after the match. The crowd chant, "Joe's gonna kill you." Joe looks for a muscle buster, but Christopher Daniels makes his return from injury and makes a save. I love that match. It told a great story and it's an A from the Hawk. Video package now about how Rhino upset the odds to become the TNA heavyweight champion. But with the help of AMW, Rhino lost the title to Slapnuts 2 days later. There's also personal stuff here about Rhino going through a divorce and having a drinking problem. It's Rhino challenging for the Slapnuts belt. Interesting that they say Jarrett has doubled the experience of Rhino in the ring. Feels mad, how is Jarrett still going today? The crowd are chanting "Fire Jarrett." Surprisingly, the crowd is still full of life after the excitement of the last match. Rhino scores a couple of shoulder block knockdowns and he takes in the crowd. Rhino shows his strength now with a gorilla press slam. Unfortunately, we've seen a few of those at this point on this show. That just wouldn't happen in the WWE. The crowd don't react to it. Jarrett's out of the ring and Rhino throws himself out onto him. We head into the crowd because every Jeff Jarrett match must have crowd brawling. Jarrett suplexes him off the steps. He's fine. They continue running around backstage. Nothing happens. It's essentially a waste of time. Rhino starts using a chair, still on the outside of the ring. Rhino asks the crowd who's the man as he gets smacked in the zone. Guess it's not him. We end up in this weird scaffolding area. It's hard to tell from the camera angle if they're even high up. Jarrett hits him with a chair and Rhino falls and goes for a table. I guess they weren't that high after all. Jarrett says that he's now the man. No pin is made and it's a suplex on the entrance ramp. Well, I guess it's not a Falls Count Anywhere match, so he wouldn't make a pin. Rhino disappears up the ramp and comes back with a bunch of tables. The tables are stacked on the entrance ramp. Oh no, whoa, Rhino gores Jarrett through the tables and down the hole. That was legitimately pretty cool. I felt for sure that Jarrett would move. An announcement is now made that both men have 10 seconds to return to the ring. Seems pretty harsh. Couldn't you wait for them to get to their feet then say that? Team Canada jump Rhino and toss him down the ramp. Not sure why that's not a DQ. Team Canada carry Jarrett back to the ring. The ref looks like he doesn't want to count now. But Rhino makes his return to a huge ovation. Rhino has to fight off Team Canada once again and the ref does nothing. Big spinebuster from Rhino, of course just a 2. Rhino's still dealing with Team Canada and he's superplexed. That just doesn't keep the Rhino down, who immediately connects with a TKO. Rhino is spent though and he eventually drapes his arm over for a 2. Now we get a ref bump as Rhino gores the ref. Belly to belly from Rhino, but of course Team Canada return before Rhino can hit a gore. Bobby Roode hits Rhino with a Northern Lariat. Jarrett makes the cover with the ref waking up, but it's just a 2. Now Jarrett has the guitar. TNA is screaming how sick he is of seeing this. Jarrett promptly slaps the guitar over Rhino's head. But no, it's a kick out from Rhino. Now Jackie Gader is here. She's screaming at Jarrett and she slaps him. This is of course the storyline about Jackie Gader blackmailing Jarrett over something which was never resolved and she left the company before it could be. Her slap leads straight to the gore from Rhino. The ref scrambles over, but it's just a 2. Wow, how did Jarrett kick out of that? He already took a gore through tables earlier. Rhino has chairs set up and he's looking for the Rhino driver. Scott D'Amore hits Rhino with a weak hockey stick shot. Oh no, Jarrett hits the stroke into the chairs and that's the 3. Don West immediately screams that sucks and throws the headset down in anger. Yeah, pretty much sums it up, Dom. The lights go out and here he is, the icon Sting. Well actually no, it's just his ring gear. The crowd knew it was going to be something to do with Sting before it even appeared. And that's how the show ends, so there was no big announcement. They just hinted at Sting coming to TNA. Don't you just love it when TNA didn't follow through with their promises? Right, as annoying as that match was, it wasn't bad. And Rhino and Slappy both took some bumps. It's hard to move past that finish though, but I'm going to give this one a high C. Wow, talk about a one-match pay-per-view. How was that rated as one of the best TNA pay-per-views of all time? It's certainly not. Admittedly, there was nothing terrible on here, but it was all just middle of the road, apart from that AJ Styles vs Samoa Joe match. Worst match of the night was either that Canyon Raven match or the Dudley's AMW table match. I would advise you to pretty much skip this show and just watch the X Division title match. Whilst I take a short break from Ring of the Hawk, let me know any interesting pay-per-views that you'd like to see reviewed down in the comments, but you have to let me know what makes it an interesting show. And if you don't agree with that, I'll hit you with a gut-punching blow.